Welcome to the Sheridan Report, brought to you by MyBookie.Ag. To get up to $1,000 cashback bonus on your first deposit, go to thegruelytruth.com, click on the MyBookie.Ag banner at the top of the page. I am your co-host for the Sheridan Report, Mike Goodpaster, and right now I would like to welcome in my other co-host, a man who I can't believe he just didn't disappear to the islands. He picked so many games right last night. Help me welcome to the show, Bobby Sheridan. How you doing, Bobby?
Mike, I'm doing great. And, it's all about I really enjoyed that finish for our day yesterday. And things all came together, and I bet it aggressively, and it came through correctly. And so that's all a good feeling. But, it's on to the next day when you're doing this type of work. And I'm just happy, the ATP this morning, the early risers, they go 2-1 again. That's 6-1 at the ATP Monte Carlo. And those are 7 money line dogs in 2 days, which means, plus 100 or better. And we just nailed 6 out of 7. So I'm really, really happy about that. And we're just really trying to break even so that we can win the juice and make a little bit of profit on that club. And sometimes it comes together, and we just had a win. Cecchinato beat San Wawrinka, and on the clay, everything changes, and there's a couple real clay court specialists, and Cecchinato came back today and won that match, and I was really, really happy for that. That just went final about 5 minutes ago.
All right, Bobby, so we want to start off with the NBA tonight. I know you nailed a Clipper straight win last night, which did not look promising at halftime.
It's amazing. Of course, that's a big win. I had them at 8-1 on the money line, then I took more at 10-1, and of course I had the 13.5, and we talked about that on the air yesterday, but I was wrong in that I thought it was going to be nip and tuck the whole way, and that the Clippers would have a shot in the fourth and have a better than 8-1 chance to win it, and that's why I took it. I thought it'd be, maybe Golden State would be favored in the last few minutes, but it might be a 3-point game or something. Well, it was a 3-point game, but man, we had to go there and back just to get it to 3. I mean, when they're down 30 and I got a text from a couple people when it was 24, and they said, "Do we book this?" And I said, "Not booked." Because weird stuff can happen, and I did not think at that time that they'd be back to win the game. I just thought not booked. Maybe we can have a late garbage time run and cover by a half point or something, lose by 13. And when they came back to win, that just really showed that the overall thought process on the Clippers was right, though, that this is a team that's no joke. They're a very good basketball team, and they're coached very well, and they have a couple weapons that they can go to. We talked about Lou Williams and Harrell, and then Gallinari, and then how about this Hammett? What is his name? The guard that hit the three-pointer.
Don't ask me to say foreigners' names, Bobby.
They got him from the Sixers, right? I believe in the Tobias Harris trade.
Yeah.
Shamet. Yeah, it just came to my head. He hits the three, and he only had 3 points or 2 points in the previous game. And we mentioned that the key was that they had no depth in the scoring in first game. They got no points from their starters. Only 2 starters scored more than 3 points, and that can't happen. And the mental lapses that Doc Rivers talked about. And sometimes you can really learn a lot of things when you listen to the coaches. And he's about as honest as they come. I love listening to him. And so I really thought they had a chance, to say that I thought they'd win. Sometimes it comes through. And then the Dodgers hit the walk-off, and the Indians held on. And those were the back ends of our 3-teamer, which we mixed and matched and hit with some top plays, which both won. The baseball, we hit both of those, and we dog parlay there, and we had them and other stuff branching forward and nice straight bets. And hey, Mike, but it's on to the next day, and that's what we're here to talk about right now.
All right, so give us what's going on today.
All right, what's going on today is I have action in 2 of these 3 NBA games tonight, and the first one we'll take part in is the middle game. It's a 6:10 on the West Coast, and the Spurs are staying in Denver. And, the Spurs we had in game 1, I believe we labeled them a top play, and they did. They won straight up. And I think they're going to come right back. I don't know that they'll win this game tonight, but there's very little chance that they're blown out in this game. And so I think the 7 points are going to play a very major factor and give you a really good chance to win this bet. Denver is just having a hard time right now separating, and they're having a hard time, scoring and playing the level of basketball that was indicative of their second place standings in the West. And, the Spurs have a lot of momentum that they carried over into game one, and they showed a lot of maturity, which is product of their coach, a Hall of Fame coach, and they showed a lot of, experience, maybe more so than what people gave them credit for. And they have a real shot in this series, and they've already accomplished what they wanted. They came in there and they stole the first game, but I don't think that's a feeling of, oh man, we got one, and okay, and then they just let this one go and get beat by 20, and then, all right, now let's let our home court advantage play out. I don't think that's their mentality at all. It's definitely not the coaches. And so I believe that they'll be able to cover this game tonight. So we're going to take the Spurs +7 over the Nuggets. Not a top play, though, because I think our top play tonight in the NBA has to be the late game, and that's the Thunder staying in Portland and trying to get their job done, which was to split up there. The Thunder are getting a couple points. It opened 2.5, and I said to myself, this game's going to close about 1 or pick 'em, because Oklahoma City, even with the odds coming down, now you remember game one was 3.5, then it got down to 3, and this one's 2.5, and it's already down to 1.5. So again, OKC's gotten the money, and the thought process going into the series was the Thunder were 4-0 against Portland this year, and they, that Damon Lillard's, kryptonite was Westbrook, and that Portland, the injuries with Nurkic and McCollum maybe not 100% was gonna get them, and maybe the lack of experience of Aminu and Harkless, guys that they really would depend on, and this Enes Kanter. Well, those guys, Portland made all the plays down the stretch, even though OKC played a B- game, maybe a C game on the road. They still were within a point with 2 minutes left, something like that. And if the plays go their way in the last couple of minutes, which you kind of expect them to, they've won a lot of games that way with George and Westbrook, and Dennis Schrader was doing a good job. He was a starter in Atlanta as a point guard, averaged 19 points. He's kind of combining there with those guys in the backcourt to help out. You thought that Oklahoma City was in good position, but they didn't deserve that win. They played a C game, and you can't win a playoff game on the road playing a C game. And I think tonight you'll get their A- game. I think they're going to play a big game tonight and win this game straight up on the road. It took some heroics down the stretch for Portland to hold them off. And anything short of that tonight, I think Oklahoma City will have a 7-8 point win.
All right. Anything else?
No, NBA's shut. I'm not going to do anything with the first game. And, Mike, let's talk a little bit about your hockey, if we can.
All right. Tonight, I think this is a sentence until now I don't think anybody thought would ever exist. The Columbus Blue Jackets tonight have a chance to win a playoff series. It would be the first time in franchise history that they're even on the right side of an elimination game. And Tampa Bay came in with 62 wins, tied for the most in NHL history. And they're playing with house money tonight. When I look at this, Columbus is still the underdog. So I'm going to take them straight. And I'll tell you why. I think, and pay attention to this, Bobby, because if Columbus loses tonight, I would then bet money on Tampa Bay to win this series.
Yeah, you can get odds on that too, Mike. You can get updated series prices, and they make it 3-1. Then we flip flop, right? It goes to Tampa for Game 5.
Yeah, and then all you need to do is get the one win at Columbus. But the reason I say that is this: if we look at this, after being blown out 3-0 in the first period of Game 1, they have basically blown the doors off of Tampa. They won the next game 5-1 after coming back and winning game one. They defended home ice in a close battle, 3-1 last game. They've got a 3-0 series lead. The one thing that would worry me is I think Tampa Bay looked like they were starting to get in sync in that third period. But I just think that this is huge tonight. I mean, you're coming in front of a home crowd with a chance to do something nobody really gave you a chance to do. And I think this is their opportunity. And I know it may sound nuts to say they've got to win this game. But to me, they've got to win this game because I think Tampa Bay is the better team. But right now, Tampa Bay's kind of in disarray. Columbus is playing as well as they can. And when I look at that, you know, the only thing that gives me a little pause is here, when we talk about star power, Kucherov is back for the Bolts tonight. And you've still got last year's Norris Trophy winner, Victor Hedman, is doubtful to play in tonight's game, according to Tampa Bay's coach. So for the Blue Jackets, to me, I just think you got to continue to defend the neutral zone, play with high energy. I like them in this game tonight. I like the Vegas Knights in a parlay with Columbus. And I just think the Knights are better than the Sharks. And I think they've got the home ice advantage, which I think is big in Vegas because they have a great home crowd. So I would parlay Vegas and Columbus, and I would bet Columbus straight up. And I would have no problem with betting Vegas straight up either, but they're a favorite. So I want to combine that with a dog.
Right. That's great thought process there. Yeah, Vegas is 163, so that there's really no value in laying that there. But if you can get them, if you can be alive to them, that would be the key. And Mike, your picks have been right on. You were 2-1 again, so that's 4-2 the last two hockey nights that you've been. And I played your parlay. We only lost by, we had the Dallas Stars. You had the two winners, and we had the Dallas Stars tied up at 2. There with maybe 7 minutes left, and fluky goal got by us, and we got beat 3-2. Otherwise, that parlay was paying 6-1.
Yeah. You want to go Major League Baseball now, which we had a lot of success with last night, Bobby?
Let's go Major League Baseball. This is the bread and butter, and this is what, I spend more time on now that the season has started than anything else, although my work days are getting longer and longer. But I like it, so here we go. Tonight we got, it's kind of it's got more depth, this card, and this is going to put the player, the better, have him making some decisions on where he wants to go, and how he wants to do this. Sometimes you got two plays like yesterday, and sometimes you got four. And today we got two that I've deemed top plays. So today's a big night in the MLB, and it will determine my night, plus or minus, for sure. At least it probably will. It will. It for sure will, as I'm thinking. So let's start with our three-team parlay. Three-team parlay I put in today. I have a good feeling about this. We too have been hitting a lot of 2 out of 3s, and just to clarify, yesterday we hit 2 out of 3, but we used both back ends, which were later starts. They were 7:00 Pacific time starts, so late night there on the East Coast, and we used both and wound up making a good amount of money by using both and combining them with some late stuff that came around, like the Clippers, and I had something with the Avalanche that we talked about on air, and I had something with can't remember something else, but regardless, we still made money off those. So you can mix and match, but these all start. Well, 2 of them start at the same time, the 4:00 hour, and that's the Cubs with Quintana on the mound, the Twins, and then finishing with the Astros. If we can get to the Astros, I really like our position there. Houston's won 9 in a row, and they just swept Seattle. And my take on that is that they pretty much went in there and let them know not so fast. You're 13-2 start. It's still, this division still goes through us, and they swept them. Mike, and we had them the first 2, and we had Seattle in the third one and almost hit that. We had the lead till late, but Houston swept them. Well, now Houston goes on round 2 of their little statement, and they go to Oakland tonight. And playing in Oakland, this is another. These 2 battled it out last year, and they're expected to again this year. Except for Seattle's great start, and the pitching matchup really favors Houston tonight. You know, they're Colin McHugh, who was not part of their rotation last year, but is a big part this year, and much the reason that they did not re-sign Dallas Keuchel, because they don't need to spend all those millions when you got this kid ready to step in and already deliver starts that are fabulous. So he deserves to be favored, and our whole goal is to get to him in a parlay tonight. So we've chosen to do that with the Cubs and the Twins. So that's a 3-team parlay, and for $100, you get back 476. So you'd win 376. So that's about 4-1 odds. That's a nice parlay.
Yes, it is. What else? Anything else?
So we now go,
because I know you got some straights you like there too.
Yep. Now we go to the straights, and straight plays. We got two lesser plays. We're coming right back with Game 2 of the Mets. They won Game 1 for us. They've won. They're playing .667 baseball. Their offense is clicking. They're hitting with power. The only thing that's really not clicking for them is their bullpen before you get to Diaz. But if you get to Diaz, the ball game's over. I mean, there's few relievers in the game now, very few. Count them on one hand for sure. When they come in the game, you feel really good about. And there's even less of those, maybe one or two, and he's one of them that you'd pay to watch him pitch an inning. You know, if you could be right there and watch him pitch live, the guy's just spectacular. So if they can hand the ball to him in the ninth, that's about as good a bet as you've got. He finished off our game yesterday. He's just getting it to him. Well, you know, DeGrom and Syndergaard get all the headlines, and I guess they've earned it, especially DeGrom. But Steven Matz has been their best pitcher so far this year. He's done a great job. He's a left-hander that is really the reason why I love them in that division, because, you know, they're going to hand the ball to Matz and then to Wheeler, and they could sweep this series at Philadelphia. They've got 4 great starting pitchers, and they've added to their offense. This is a great team. So I believe they can come right back and win Game 2. I think they win the pitching matchup with Matz, and they're a small dog, plus 107. The Giants tonight go to Washington. This is strictly the number. You know, Washington deserves to be favored in this spot, but the Giants are going on the road. They're going to take their improved play from the last homestand, and I think I'm looking for their offense to wake up a bit on the road here. You know, it's tough to score runs in San Francisco's home park, which is now called Oracle, and they're going to go on the road now and play in a better hitter's park, and I think their offense will perk up a little bit on the road. Let's not see if I'm right about this, and we'll go over this again in a week or so. We'll go over the numbers, but the Giants are going to hit the ball a little better. And, you know, I've been touting Derek Rodriguez. He's just different. You know, he doesn't throw 98. He throws 89. He cuts the ball and he slices the ball, and he's pretty successful doing that. And I think the plus 175 is just too much to pass up. So I do have a straight wager on them. And then we've got 2 top plays. And the top plays are small dogs. We got the Cardinals tonight over the Brewers, and the Tigers over the Pirates. And basically, we'll go to the Pirate game against the Tigers, interleague matchup. And, you know, this is the one game I'm most looking forward to watching. It starts at 3:40 Pacific. These are 2 teams that are playing above what was expected, along with Seattle and a couple others. That's what's the great thing about baseball. And Detroit, I think their offense is a little bit deeper than Pittsburgh's offense. And I think even though Pittsburgh's going to get to add a DH today, being at the American League Park, I think Detroit's got a little bit more power than Pittsburgh. And in an expected pitcher's duel, I think the long ball will probably prove the factor here. If we get to the closers, each closer is excellent. Each closer is perfect on the year. But I think Detroit, being the home team, Pittsburgh especially using their closer for multiple outs just the other day. Maybe that was yesterday, or am I losing track? Maybe it's 2 days ago. I have to look that up. But I think they will not go to him on the road in the ninth in a tie game. So Detroit's got some edges here. I think the long ball they're going to win it with. And so I like Detroit with Matthew Boyd on the mound. Excellent left-hander. So I think they'll win that. And then the other top play is the Cardinals. And they're playing Game 2 of that series in Milwaukee. And what a division this is, the Central, the Cardinals and the Brewers. And they win this matchup. See, we're getting a plus 103 with Flaherty, and he's outpitched Woodruff thus far. Woodruff's a young guy that got a lot of experience last year, towards the end of the year in the playoffs, but he's not throwing the ball as well as they thought. Flaherty has put together a couple good outings, and I think the Cardinals will bounce back and take game 2 of this series. They got beat last night. Milwaukee unloaded the home run ball on them, but the Cardinals didn't have to use any of their bullpen, so they're fresh and ready. So Flaherty gives them a good start. They've got their top arms in relief. They too have got the long ball, in their lineup with Ozuna, Carpenter, and Goldschmidt. So I think the game favors them tonight, and we're getting a small dog price. So the Cardinals top play, along with Detroit. So I would definitely parlay those two up in a nice top play parlay. You got the other two I like. So it's just this is the most depth that we've had on a card this whole year.
All right, Bobby. We want to go ahead and get on this day. I'm actually waiting on MyBookie.Ag to send me the banner, or a new banner, which will get everybody a 100% bonus on their first deposit. So we're going to go ahead and skip the commercial, but make sure you go to MyBookie.Ag. Where are we going today, Bobby? April the 16th.
April 16th, and that's great, Mike. 100% deposit. How do you pass that up? Okay, so we've got April 16th on this day. And on this day, 1978, there was a St. Louis Cardinal pitcher that threw a no-hitter. He beat the Phillies 5-0, so that's good karma for our Cardinals pick tonight. And that guy's name was Bob Forsch. Bob Forsch, 1978.
The thing that stands out to me is that Phillies lineup was loaded. That was Mike Schmidt, Greg Luzinski, all those guys. The other thing I do remember about this was there was controversy because there was a ball that was hit past third baseman Ken Ritz that was ruled in error that I know was controversial at the time in 1978. But, yeah, the thing that really makes this rare is I don't know if this is still true or not, but I'm pretty sure it's true to this day. There's only been 8 Cardinals that have thrown a no-hitter, and only 3 of those had been in front of a home crowd. And the interesting thing here is Bob Forsch threw 2 no-hitters because he also threw a second one I can't remember if it was at Montreal or at home, but he threw a second no-hitter against Montreal in '83, and I think to this day, is that not the last time a no-hitter was thrown by a Cardinal?
Oh, wow, Mike.
Because I'm pretty sure
it is.
I
did not remember. Yeah, you might be right on that. Wow. That franchise, and for the pitchers they've had and the success they've had, that's amazing if that's the last no-hitter.
Yeah,
and I didn't realize he threw 2.
Yeah, he threw 2, and I mean the second was in 1983 was against Montreal, which was a solid hitting team. So when you look at it, I mean it was pretty impressive. And Forsch, of course, his brother Ken was a very good major league pitcher also. And the Cardinals back then, I mean that was right around when did Whitey Herzog take over for the Cardinals as the manager? Do you remember that?
That was after it was in the 80s because Herzog managed the Royals early in the 80s. So I want to say maybe 82, 83.
Yeah, I think he was the manager in 82 when they won the World Series, though, right?
Yeah, so 82. Yeah, I think maybe 81, 82 took over.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And the other thing about Forsch is he was a pretty good hitter because I think he won a couple Silver Slugger awards also. He's in the Cardinals Hall of Fame. But the thing that stands out to me in all this was just those Cardinals teams of the early 80s, especially the 1982 World Series, which I think at the time I was like 7th or 8th grade. You would have been too. And that was one of my favorite World Series. And Forsch actually in Game 1 of that World Series may have pitched his worst game. Because if you remember, Milwaukee came out and clubbed them like 10-0 in Game 1. And in Game 2, the Cardinals eked out a win. Game 3, Joaquin Andujar pitched a great game at Milwaukee's Old County Stadium. And then I think Game 4, I think the Brewers tied the series at 2. And in Game 5, which a lot of times is the pivotal game, whoever wins that gets it. Forsch started that game. He pitched much better than he did in Game 1, but he lost to Mike Caldwell 6-4. They go on in Game 6. I think they got blown out like 13-1, and then Game 7 they lost 6-3. And the thing I remember about that was Bruce Sutter, I think against Gorman Thomas, and I think the bases were loaded at the end of that game when he struck him out. And the reason I bring up Bruce Sutter is there's a man that was a Milwaukee Brewer at that time by the name of Raleigh Fingers, who I think was injured and didn't even play in that series. So when you look at it, if you put Raleigh Fingers on that pitching staff, I think it's very possible maybe the Brewers come back and win that series.
Oh, I think it's, well, without going through each game by game, I mean, I think it's probable. If Raleigh Fingers is healthy and is able to be in that bullpen, remember, back in those days, those guys would throw multiple innings also.
Yeah, if he had to come in and throw 2 innings or 2 1/3, he would do it.
Oh, absolutely. And Bruce Sutter did that countless times, and that was 2 of the best of all time. And losing Sutter, Fingers from that World Series was key. And we talked about that team, you and I, Harvey's Wallbangers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that team and what a great team that was, and that was Paul Molitor, Robin Yount, Gorman Thomas, Ben Ogilvy. Just what a team. And for the Cardinals to come back and win that series, it really spoke pretty well of what they were all about as well.
Yeah, and then you move forward to 1985, and Forrest still, I mean, his biggest drawback, I think, was World Series. Because in that World Series, he lost a huge game. I think it was Game 5 or 6. I think it was Game 5, but he lost to Danny Jackson. But that was a series that stands out to me because I think that was the first time in Major League history that a home team lost the first 2 games and then actually went on to win the series. And the thing about those 2 games is they were low scoring, they were tight games. I think Danny Jackson pitched Game 1, Charlie Leibrandt Game 2, and they lost the games like 3-1 and 3-2, or 3-1 and 4-2. And the games weren't decided until the 9th inning. And then you get to Game 3, and Brett Saberhagen was the star of this series. Game 3 at Busch Stadium in St. Louis, he damn near shut him out. He beats him 6-1. Game 4. The Cardinals win again, though, and they actually shut him out. John Tudor pitched a great game in there. I think it was like 2-0 or 3-0. So they're down 3-1. Bob Forrest gets the ball in Game 5, and Kansas City lights him up. Danny Jackson pitched great, and the Royals end up winning 6-1. And Jackson is a guy that people forget about, but he was a great postseason pitcher. I mean, he lost Game 1, 3-1. He wins Game 5, 6-1, and then if you fast forward a few years, 1990, he won well over 20 games for the Cincinnati Reds and won a game during the '90 World Series. He pitched really well. Well, I don't know if he won it, but I think he started Game 2, which was the game the Reds won in extra innings when Joe Oliver hit the double down the line. Then you get to Game 6, the Royals win 2-1, and that's a game where, I mean, it was maybe the worst call in baseball history. Don Denkinger at first base in a 1-0 game, and you get the ground ball. He calls him safe when he was really out, and basically changed who won that World Series.
Yeah, it did, and it also set the stage for Game 7 for Brett Saberhagen to I think, through a shutout. Did he shut them out in Game 7?
Yeah, he beat him 11-0, and that was the game where Joaquin Andujar started and then lost his cool, like, I forget. It was only like an inning or 2 into the game, and he ended up getting tossed out of the game. But, yeah, and who was the guy that hit the big home run in there? Was it Darryl Motley? Was Darryl Motley on that team?
I don't remember if it was Darryl Motley, but he was on that team. And I don't remember who hit the big home run, but I do know this, that my namesake, Pat Sheridan, was in that World Series for Kansas City.
Your name's Bobby. Did you know that?
Yeah, but
are you trying to change it to Pat now?
Yeah, but is there a good pastor in the MLB?
Actually, I have 5 relatives that have played in the MLB. They just last name was different. Yeah, we had 1924 Scotty Slayback played with the Giants. And the interesting thing about him was he was a guy that kind of like Moonlight Graham in Field of Dreams, where he appeared in like 3 games but never got to bat. But he played for, I think John McGraw was still the manager in 24 there, wasn't he?
Oh, my gosh.
And I know, what?
I've known you for a while now, and I'm just hearing this. This is unbelievable.
You never asked.
Well, hey, so tell me, who else?
The most recent would have been James Hauser, who was drafted, I think, at the end of the first round or started the second round by who was he drafted by? I know he ended up pitching for one of the Florida teams. I think he was drafted by the Marlins, and his claim to fame is he got in a Major League Baseball game with, I think, 2 men on, nobody out. And who the hell was the big guy for Manny Machado was the Baltimore Orioles about 5-6 years ago, wasn't he?
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, he would have been right there, probably a rookie.
Yeah, and the one guy he faced was Manny Machado. He got to a full count, and then Manny Machado hit it like 470 feet out of the ballpark, and that was his last appearance. So I think what we can realize is this. And then I've had a few guys that played in the minor leagues. My son was a really good baseball player, but for some stupid reason has decided to go to college to play football. But what we could
maybe because his dad was a head football coach. I don't know.
That has nothing to do with it, because I keep telling him you'd be much better off to just play baseball. But he didn't listen to me. Yeah. So, yeah, you can look through, and like I said, the Hauser kid was interesting because he had arm surgery, and he basically never was the same, but he did get back to the major leagues. He made the one appearance in Baltimore, which was, let's say, ill-fated.
Good for him.
But he was a kid that threw in high 90s. At least he got a nice signing bonus at the start of his career. And then Scotty Slayback was, that was 1924 for a short amount of time. And I remember actually going, Scotty Slayback lived in a trailer up on a hill in Guilford, Indiana. And I remember when I was little a few times going up there with my dad and my sister and my mom and actually visited with him. He was a great guy. He told stories about, his week in the major leagues in 1924. I think he was brought up like towards the end of that season. But wow. It was just cool being around somebody that played in 1924 Major League Baseball. And I think he passed away in like the late 70s, early 80s maybe.
Scotty Slayback. How do you spell his last name?
S-L-A. My question is, was it... hold on here. I'm looking it up now.
B-A-U-C-H or B-A-C-H?
B-A-C-K, I believe.
Okay. All right.
Because I know, because this was the kind of person I was. I didn't believe anybody when I was little, just like I don't now. So what I did was... I went in, and I went in to the library in Aurora, Indiana, and looked him up in, what was it called? And remember the old baseball encyclopedia that had everything?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the baseball encyclopedia. I looked him up, and I actually found him, and that's how I found out the stats. I just wanted to make sure he did play. And actually, if you look at him now... it was 1926, so I was close off memory. He was 24, because if you just punch in Scotty Slayback, MLB, it comes up. And batting, nice. It says he had 8 plate appearances. So Scotty lied to me, because that means he never got a hit, not that he never had an at-bat.
Oh, man. Well, Mike...
And actually, he's buried like in Oakdale Cemetery, which is like 15 minutes from my house.
Man.
In Dillsboro, Indiana.
You brought up the baseball encyclopedia. Now, I remember we would make comments. Even if it's an inning I play, if I make the show, I'm in that book forever.
Oh, hell yeah. That's all that matters. I mean, if you pull up Baseball Reference now, you can see a picture of Scotty Slayback from 1926.
Exactly, and we got a guy I coached, and we're going to get him on the Sheridan Advance, Mike. His name is Chris Jacobauskas, and he was in the big leagues for parts of 3 seasons, and this is probably 5-6 years ago. 4 to 5 years ago was his last year. Was with the Orioles, and he played with the Pirates, and his most innings was with the Mariners. So 3 years, 3 teams. And I've talked to you about this off the air, but we're going to get him on, and he's off doing other things now. He didn't make enough money to do anything. He's got to work. He's off doing other jobs, and I want to talk to him about what he's doing and how life's been after pro baseball. That's a interesting, topic for me. But what brought it up for me to talk about right now is that, he's got that forever. He's got those memories and that in his,
Hey, and
forever.
I mean, from looking him up, he threw a complete game in the major leagues.
Yeah, no, I know he's got some wins. I think he has 9 wins or something.
Yeah, he's like 8-10 with a 5.5 ERA. So it was just like the Scotty Slayback thing. I mean, the first time anybody told me he played Major League, I met him and I'm thinking, yeah, all right. I'm like 7 or 8 years old, so I'm thinking whatever. And then I remember the next time I went to meet him, it was a big deal because in between time I'd went to the library in Aurora, Indiana, and looked him up. And as soon as I saw his name there, it didn't matter what it said after his name. He played Major League Baseball.
Absolutely. And the point of all the kids that start out playing Little League Baseball, the .00001 that ever make the major leagues, Scotty did, the kid I coached in high school did. And I actually have, how many big leaguers now? 4 or 5.
Miguel Tejada. He's the one for Baltimore that hit the home run off of James Hauser. Yeah, okay. It was Tejada. Because I remember, and also I had another cousin by the name of Bill Wegman who actually pitched in the early and mid-'80s for the Brewers. And
I know that, yeah.
And actually, he got like a $2 million contract at one point, and then he blew his arm up. I think he did make it back. But yeah, he was from Oak Hills High School in Cincinnati. But yeah, he was related through marriage to my family because my Aunt Faith's daughter was married to him, and I think he was like 6'5", 6'6". But I remember, I think he got drafted in like the early '80s, and I actually got a subscription to the Sporting News because the Sporting News in the back of it, if you remember, they would give like box scores from around the minor leagues and stuff every week. Correct. So I remember going in there and looking for the Beloit Brewers. I think it was the Class A affiliate, just to see how my cousin had done.
Yeah, and it's so amazing what we used to have to do, and we thought that was cool that we had that newspaper come out, the Sporting News. We could go and look at all these things, and now you can damn near watch live these minor league games if you get the MILB package, and you can go online and look up every status.
I mean, it was like yesterday, we did on this day, me and Jeremiah on the boxing show about Hagler Hearns. The thing I remember about Hagler Hearns was, we had a thing called On TV. And On TV was kind of a regional service, but they would show the closed circuit boxing events you could buy for like $15. And this would have been, I think, in '84. Hagler and Hearns were supposed to fight in the summer of '84. And I remember it was only like $10 or $15, so we bought it. And my buddy Earl, who lived up the street, he didn't give 2 shits about boxing, but I keep telling him, man, you got to watch this. It's Hagler Hearns. And he comes down to spend the night at the house, and we turned the TV on, and the fight never came on. And I'm wondering, why the hell isn't this fight coming on? And then the next day, I read in the Cincinnati Enquirer, that they put the fight off because one of them got injured, and I think it was Hearns, but I'm not sure. But the point is this, that was known 2 weeks ahead of time. I was sitting there getting ready to watch the fight and didn't know a damn thing about it. And I remember the same thing happened was Sugar Ray Leonard with his detached retina. He was supposed to fight a guy by the name of Roger Stafford. Roger Stafford was the number 1 contender. And I remember, to find out what I was going to be able to watch sports-wise when I was a little kid, we would go down to Tandy's, we'd get a TV guide, and then we would read the TV guide to see what was on. And I was all excited because that Saturday night, Sugar Ray Leonard's fighting against Roger Stafford. And I sit down to watch the fight, same thing, it never came on. Found out later that Leonard had injured his eye, and that fight had been canceled the week before. But the TV guide still had it there, so I was still sitting there waiting to watch it.
Right. I got one of those kind of stories. My dad was always great about wanting to take us to different, events, and I got to see Rod Carew's 3,000th hit, and I missed Reggie's 500th home run. We saw 498, 99, and 501, but we missed 500. It was a school night, and you can't go to every game. And he hit his 500th home run against Kansas City at the old Angel Stadium. And anyways, point is that, you know, he was going to take us to go watch Nolan Ryan pitch. And the darn newspaper had Frank Tanana or somebody else scheduled. They had it mislabeled, you know, the pitching matchups. And Ryan, if it had been Ryan, it was a Saturday night, he would have taken us. But we decided, oh, Ryan's not pitching, we're not going. He threw a no-hitter that night. We missed it. We missed it because the newspaper had mislabeled it. Well, you know, I mean, the way things are today, I mean, you know, it's just a whole nother.
You'd have known.
But, you know,
but
it's
all
great.
Right. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up, and me and Bobby will be back tomorrow at the same time as always, so make sure you check us out, Inside Boxing Daily tonight at 11. Make sure you go check out the Sheridan Report at thesheridanreport.com. $10 a day buys you the Sheridan Report, or $50 for the month. Also, you can then parlay that with MyBookie.Ag up to a $1,000 cash bonus right now, 50% of your first deposit. Make sure also, if you're into horse racing, you can check out the Handicapper's Guide, which has some great information. If you're going to Aqueduct or a certain park, you can get that daily for $5. I think you can combine 4 different tracks, $10 a day if you're watching on TVG. So make sure you check out the Handicapper's Guide. Also, you can also follow Bobby Sheridan on the Sheridan Report at Sheridan Report. But we're going to wrap it up. Bobby, did I miss anything here?
The only thing you missed, you didn't know about, Mike, and that's because today is Bruce Bochy, my manager in minor leagues, my favorite guy in baseball, Bruce Bochy, 64th birthday today. So happy birthday, Bruce! Get a win tonight.
All right, and Bobby, I would like to bring up the fact that if I didn't know about it, I couldn't miss it. All right, guys, we're going to wrap the show up.
That's right.
I want to remind everybody, you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So, for Bobby Sheridan, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.